Welcome to Might in Motion, where we help you navigate your personal and professional goals to manifest them into your deserved career and life path. Here at Might in Motion, we don't make excuses, we do the work and go above and beyond. The Might in Motion podcast brings you guests that will help stretch you out of your comfort zone and push you to improve your goals. Like, comment, and share. This is Might in Motion. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to our very first live with Might in Motion. Super excited to have you all here today. So a little bit about Might in Motion. It is a coaching group where we focus on how not having any excuses, doing the work and going above and beyond. And been very excited over the past month or so to share a lot of content on how to be a better leader within your organization. And today I'm bringing to you a guest speaker to talk more about overcoming boundaries that may be holding you back in your job. So who do I have with me? I have Dr. D. I love Dr. D. She and I have had a ton of opportunities to work together over the past probably 8 months now. And so I'm going to be quiet. I'm going to invite her to the stage here to tell us a little bit about herself and what her background is.
Hi, Mariana. Thank you for having me on. I'm Dr. Danita Morales Ramos, and since that's such a big mouthful, you can call me Dr. D. I am the founder of Assert Yourself Mindset Coaching and Counseling out here in Virginia. I'm a clinical psychologist, mindset coach, and a global motivational speaker. And so, in a short, I help people get clarity in their lives. And so, in the entrepreneurial space, in the corporate space, I help high performers to be able to establish boundaries in their lives to have that quality of life. And so, that's me.
Well, I am excited to have you here. I know you helped me overcome a ton of opportunities in my personal and professional life over the past 8 months. And I really loved your book, The Four Critical Habits to Overcoming Burnout. When we first started to work together, I was very overwhelmed, anxious, and just felt like life and work and everything was just so heavy, right? Why do you think so many people in business feel that way today?
Well, the obvious is the last couple of years with the changes in our social environment, the changes in our work environment, our health environment, all these things like that, and just really having to navigate to what people are was calling about a year or so ago the new normal, right? Well, that was hard for a lot of people to do. Many people went to working from an office to working in the home and trying to parent at the same time while they are doing their jobs and trying to interact with their spouses in more hours out of the day and just really trying to find work life balance, if you will, not at work anymore, but at home. And so just really navigating a way to continue to have their personal identity as well as their identity as a family or as a partner has been challenging for a lot of people, and to maintain their high performance that's expected in the business space.
So, do you think that work life balance even exists?
Work life balance is just another fancy cliche that people turn around. Like, how do you balance that? How do you balance your life against work? Think about a scale, right? Is your life more than your work? Is your work more than your life? We really have to be very conscious of the language that we use, because the language that we use is indicative of our thinking process. So think about it. If I'm walking around saying I need work life balance, I need work life balance, I need work life balance, and you're at work, you're not going to feel that way. And you're at home, you're not going to feel that way, because there's no such thing. What there needs to be is a sense of sensibility about what it is that you value. And I talk about that in my book, The Four Critical Habits to Overcome Burnout.
Yeah, that is so true. There really isn't a balance. I mean, I am a mother. I have two young children. They're first and third grade. I have a husband and I have a full-time job. So, and you have a family as well and raise children. It's just there is no such thing as balance. It's really I found how do you integrate, right? How do you integrate those things and know that sometimes you might have to put a little bit more time on the work side and other times it's the family side that has to have more time and devotion and just trying to figure out what's best for your particular moment, right?
So
um,
can I chime in on that for a minute? So the time that's a key factor there with that work life balance. So that's literally how people are trying to conceptualize it. How do I spend just as much time at work at home as I do at work, or vice versa, right? That's not the goal here. The goal should be to be have more value, a more value based mindset instead of the goal. Like, I need to check this box. Okay, I spent 2 hours with this kid, 2 hours with that kid. No, it's not really the quantity of time as much as the quality of time. So I just kind of wanted to
yeah.
add that in there.
That is so key, and I know many people have read the love languages, right? And I've even started to identify that in my children. What's important for my child, that individual, to feel like they're getting what they need in that relationship, or what does my husband need, or even what does my boss need, or my team at work, right? Like everybody that you work with has a different set of needs, and how are you living that, and how are you living that to really elevate everyone, right? And when you do that, you don't feel, at least for me, I stopped feeling so heavy. I stopped feeling like I had to manage every second of my life to meet these goals that really weren't you weren't living. You're just checking boxes,
Absolutely.
right? Yeah. Um, what do you believe are some common self-defeating beliefs, and how can we overcome them?
So self-defeating beliefs about that work-life balance, that whole area, right? Well, one of the self-defeating beliefs really relates to kind of all of it. It relates to this idea of perfectionism, this idea of being everything to everyone all the time, right? And so, at work, we're in a business space, right? So at work, I'm not going to say no, for example, I can't do something because I'm afraid that people won't like me. And so I need to present myself as perfect. And I do
Hmm.
that multiple times to the point where I'm exhausted and i.e. overwhelmed.
Yeah. Yeah, that is so true. And really to be able to um, live those values that you want to live. What you helped me with was setting and keeping boundaries, right? And I know we had a comment from our audience about boundaries being important and hard to get right. As a mother and a leader was one of the comments, and it really is sometimes very hard to do that. How do you go about trying to set good boundaries?
So I don't often see a problem with people setting boundaries. If I do, it's because they haven't identified the problem first. But it's usually not setting boundaries. What people say is, I set boundaries and nobody respects my boundaries. The key is not just setting boundaries, it's maintaining them. So, quickest example is if I say that I stop seeing clients at 5 o'clock or my business closes at 5, and I answer the call at 5:01, then I have broken my own boundary. So in the workplace, in your home space, if you say no, no isn't bad. No means I'm not in that space right now. No, I don't have the bandwidth right now. I don't have the tools or the resources or whatever the case might be. And if I tell you that this is my boundary and I don't honor that, then that is the problem. So you said one of your guests was saying how to get it right. It's not so much about getting it right. That dichotomy is what keeps people stuck because they can't see the gray, right?
Yeah.
They can't see the gray area in there.
Yeah, I mean, one of my favorite quotes from your book, I actually wrote it down, but you say, "Learn to say no more."
Mhm.
And that is definitely something that for me to overcome has been really big, because I watched my mother never say no, right? Yes to everything. Yes, I'll make that potluck. Yes, I'll take care of the kids. Yes, I'll drive them there. Yes, I'll be a teacher at the school. And so you kind of emulate what you're raised at, and that's been a big thing for me, is how do you say no more, and how do you do that with grace,
Mhm.
right? So that you're not, maybe you may not be saying no to an opportunity right then, but maybe just not right now.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
No, no is the simplest boundary. And people have difficulty saying no because of their own view of themselves. If I say no, what will people think of me? How will people perceive me? And so the benefit, if you will, of not saying no is I get to save face and believe that everyone
Mhm.
likes me or whatever the case might be. But the cost of that is overwhelm, as you said. The
Yeah.
cost of that is resentment. Like, when is someone going to show up for me? No one's going to show up for you because you're always saying yes.
Yeah. Yeah. So, what are maybe some other key things that you'd like to highlight today on trying to proactively avoid burnout? Are there any other key tips that we can give our audience?
I really want to hone back in on this value based system, right? So we have been institutionalized,
Mhm.
programmed into this, all of us, right? We're not exempt from this. Is that, you go to school, you go to kindergarten, check. You go to middle school, check. College, you get the job, get the white picket fence, the husband, check. All of those are goals. And so many people are goal driven, but if that system doesn't align with you, then that's where the distress comes in. Because I hear all my corporate clients saying, I want to be successful. I'm trying to get there. And I'm like, where's there? Well, no, actually, I don't know where there is. What does that mean exactly? And then they'll stop because they hadn't really embraced past that programming that
Yeah.
there's such places there. Now, that doesn't mean they don't still achieve some goals, but what I help them to do is to identify the things that they value. What do you value about family? What are your work values? Your company, your corporations have values. They call them core values, right?
Mhm.
And so, what do you have values in? Money, relationships, free time, social activities, whatever. And then your goals help you manifest those values. So, anybody who's watching this, if you're just checking boxes and you feel overwhelmed, like Mariana said she was
Mhm.
feeling resentment, if you're having trouble maintaining those boundaries, sit down and identify your core values on life.
Yeah, I mean, that was really a lot of our starting with our first conversations, because you quickly honed in on, I loved my checklist,
Mhm.
right? What do I have to do to fix me, or what do I have to do to fix this problem? And you really could crack that shell of, no, it's not about how do you say check all these things off, but how do you view your world in a different way,
Mhm.
right? When you change that view, everything can start to come into alignment. And some of that's by saying no. Some of that might be saying yes to different things that maybe you need to say yes to. And other times it's not saying anything at all. you know? Yeah.
Another key point is to follow through on those values. The
Yeah.
reason why you have the results and my clients get their results is because before we even, our contractual agreement, our verbal contractual agreement is, are you willing to put in the work to do something different from what you've already been
Yeah.
doing? Like you said, I had to crack that shell. You can't just check by, you like, Dr. D, what do I have to do? No, 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 no. Let's start with the basics. What are
Mhm.
your values? And then you know very well how to accomplish goals, but you
Yeah.
know how to manifest what it is that you value.
Yeah, that's right. So, and those of you that are watching the audience, I know I'm seeing a few comments, which is fantastic. If you have questions, please drop them in the comments. That'll be the easiest way for us to try to answer them or address them. Some of the other ones that were brought up were, hey, great example. Close at 5. Well, then stop answering your emails and calls at 5. Enforcing boundaries paramount. Another one was, yeah, burnout occurred for me. I said yes to too many of the wrong things, right? And maybe not to the right things. Thank you for that reminder. So great, great comments from our audience. Keep them coming, please. If you have any questions, please drop them into the comments. Once again, easiest way for us to try to answer them. Um, are there any, and you may have approached this earlier, and I apologize if this is a repeat, but warning signs. So, like for me, some of those warning signs was that feeling of being overwhelmed, um, just never ending, feeling like I had like a never ending list of things to do, and where nothing felt like it was, I was being successful, right? Like because work was failing, family failing, personal goals failing, and it just was this vicious circle. So, are there some common warning signs that we should all be aware of?
Well, the term that a lot of people use is either compassion fatigue or people just now saying I'm burnt out. But it's other things. If you that resentment that I talked about, some people may say they feel depressed or feeling anxiety. If you're not enjoying things that you normally would enjoy, if you used to love your job and you don't like your job anymore, like, hey, I need another job. And maybe so, maybe though it's not your other job, it's how you're operating in that job. you know Also looking at how you're interacting with the people that you love. Oftentimes, people that come in, it starts with something relational. It's like, oh, it's at work, it's a workplace conflict, or I'm having conflict with my spouse, or some conflict with the kids. And then when I really get down to the root of it, is that the person isn't practicing very good self-care. It's like, I wish I could go exercise. Why can't you exercise if
Right.
I don't have any time? Well, I have 24 hours in a day. You have 24 hours in a day. How is that possible that you, well, I got this, and this, and this. Okay. And then we start looking at it, I said, well, what is more of a priority? What do you value? Do you value your health, or do you value the 16 hours that you spend at work and you don't take your lunch break, for example?
Yeah.
So those warning signs really can be rooted in, are you caring for yourself? Are you eating right? Are you taking the time to date your spouse on a routine basis? Are
Yeah.
you taking the time to go to the kids' baseball game, or are you just trying to get there in the corporate space? I understand that the need to want to keep your job, but your job is going to be there. You can perform, um, you can be better at what you are doing at your job, in your career, in your business, if you're practicing good self-care. And that doesn't mean you don't have to be a bodybuilder, but walking 20 minutes a day, 20 to 30 minutes a day, doing yoga, meditation, something like
Yeah.
that can help improve your overall well-being and give you time for you before, I like to say this, before you go whore yourself out to the world.
Yeah. I mean, like just that going for the walk, right? So many times I would just take a conference call while walking the neighborhood. Right. Number one, it got me out of my because we transitioned from going into the office to working from home. So I found that I was never leaving home. And that was overwhelming, just not physically exiting my physical space. And so I would just go for a walk and take my conference call while on the walk. Right. And it was awesome because number one, I was moving, so my blood was flowing. I was thinking about different things because I wasn't sitting in front of my computer and triple tasking, right? Like, does everybody's doing their email and listening to the phone call at the same time, which means you're not really doing either one very well.
Right.
And so that movement was super huge for me, and definitely something I encourage in others. Is there anything that, as a leader, I can do better in maybe trying to identify if somebody on my team might be starting to burn out?
So, it's somewhat of a loaded question. You know what I do with loaded questions. So I'm going to break that down a little bit. First of all, leadership trickles down. So if your team is burnt out, then you're likely burnt out.
Yeah.
So the first thing you can do for your team is to exemplify balance. Not that work life balance, but I'm talking about balance within yourself. If you're on to, if you, the business closes at 5 and you're on to 7, guess what? Your team is going to expect you're supposed to be on till 7. So
Oh
don't
yeah.
be that on till 7 person. Stay within the boundaries of your work schedule. I understand sometimes we have to work a little bit over, but when it's the consistent pattern, checking in with your team, like our weekly meetings, your meetings shouldn't just be about, hey, are we getting all the business stuff done? The meetings is more about, hey, people want to be acknowledged. I can't tell you
Yeah.
Great percentage of my clients are in the corporate space, are mid-level and higher, and they feel burnt out, and the main thing that they want is someone to acknowledge that burnout. Believe it or not, it's not, hey, I want to get time off to be with my family. It's like, and no one's acknowledged. I said, well, what would that acknowledgement look like? They just want someone to say something about it. So team meetings are great for that. And every week I do my team meeting. I check in just like I do with my therapy and coaching client. What went well this week, right? What went well for you? And help and ask them to tie that into our core values. And then I said, what needs improvement? So I let my team tell me what's going on. I don't have to like look for signs. I've made an environment where they feel open to communicate with me challenges, and we hash it out right then.
Oh, I love it. That's great, great feedback because when you're having those conversations, you learn so much more, right? You learn more about the people on your team, what motivates them, what might be issues that are hidden, and
Mhm.
that could be issues at work, and it could be issues in, in their personal space that maybe you can give some grace on, and that goes a long way, right? When you have an associate that you can give some grace to, man, then they show up even bigger and better when the time is right, which is so cool.
Here's the other part of that. Not just the team meetings, because I'm modeling this in the meetings, and I answer the same question I ask them. Like I'm not at the head of the table. Like we sit in a circle, not the head of the table. Like what went well, you know? It's we're having a discussion, but by me opening it up in front of everyone, then
Yeah,
throughout the week, if something comes up, I get the, hey, I'm running into this. So it's not like they wait a whole week to tell me this. I've created and modeled these behaviors. So what you want to do as a leader is to model the behavior that you want. I just finished talking to a one-on-one client about this last week. The same thing. They were like, I want the team to do this. I'm like, okay, so are you doing that? They was
yeah,
like, oh, I'm
right,
like, okay, they're not listening to what you're saying. You have to exemplify that.
right. No, that is fire right there. I love it. I don't think we have any more questions coming in right now. At least I'm not seeing any new questions. So I know we're getting close to the 30-minute mark, and I do want to be respectful of everyone's time. I am in transportation. We like to arrive on time and we like to leave on time. So we will do that today. I want to share just really quickly. I'm going to pop up, hopefully, if I can get it to work here. We're going to add just a little summary from our conversation today. So, work-life balance, it's a myth, and so how do you kind of break that mindset that you have around that? There's value-based versus goal-based living. And when you're value-based living, you really are truly living your best life, and everything else really comes into line at that point. And in setting and the key part, keeping boundaries. I had to learn this very much the hard way, and it's been a game changer for me. Any other highlights from this conversation today, Dr. D, that you just want to call out?
That middle block right there, the value based versus goal based, just essentially, instead of that, like I said, that dichotomy, that value is the gray, because what's valuable to me may not be valuable to you. And just focusing in on what's important to me, and based on my culture, my family, whatever, and living that as opposed to just checking a box is super, super important.
Totally agree. So as far as taking action, because I do think every conversation, you need to be able to walk away and take some action. There's two things here. Number one, follow us. Follow Dr. D. She posts some really fantastic stuff on Instagram. You're also on Facebook, and I think you're doing TikToks now too, right? You're ticking and you're talking, which is awesome. I have not broken into that space. Most of you are connected right now via our LinkedIn Live. So you are connected with me via LinkedIn, but you can also follow me at Mariana_Might in Motion and Instagram. So drop us a DM if you want to continue the conversation offline. And that's how Dr. D and I got connected. We started a conversation offline, and it really, truly was a game changer for me.
Thank you for tuning into Might in Motion. If you learned something about motivation, momentum, mindfulness, or might, please like,
comment, and share. Thank you.